Hello, welcome to Board Game Bonkers. I'm JC, and today we're going to take a look at Shaolia. This is a board game. It is for more than 2 players, but primarily it seems like it's designed for 2 players. You can play in teams, you can play with 4 players. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be destroying either our opponent's palace or gaining culture to become victorious. We'll be building buildings, cavalry, and we'll be trying to protect our palace. We're trying to figure out how we're going to destroy the opponent's palace or get up that culture track. So let's head to the table and see how it plays. In Shaolia, which is primarily for 2 players, you can play in teams as well, or with 3 players. Now, the book does give you different the setup scenarios that you can play. For example, this is a 2-player, and it'll tell you the setup, what cards to use, and then you'll be discarding other cards, and which tiles to use in the marketplace. As you can see, there are different types of setups for different game modes. You can select one of these and follow the game mode as described. It only takes a few minutes to set up. So in this game, there are 3 phases, and they'll be played during rounds. Objective of the game is here to destroy your opponent's palace, as you can see here, by dealing a damage of 12, or by scoring 18 on the culture track. This is your culture marker. As you see, we've got a board laid out here, and this is where we'll be placing different types of buildings, troops, etc. in order to defend or attack or gain culture. I'll explain how that works in a second. We've got resources here, and I'll explain those resources in just a moment. And here we've got the marketplace. I'll explain how that works in just a moment. We have money, we have some more resources, which I'll explain just in a second what those will do. They are minerals, and we have cards we will purchase. That's primarily what we're going to be doing, is purchasing cards. We've got dice as well. We can roll dice to activate the cards. As you can see, they require certain numbers. I'll explain how that works in just a second. And we have a player aid. It explains all the different phases. So, we've got 3 different phases. Now, we'll be determining the player order, so this will determine who the first player is. It's a cool little marker. That'll go to the player who's first. Let's just say this player is first. What we'll do is go through the 3 phases. Okay, so player 1 will take the first phase, they'll carry that out, the purchase phase, and then it'll go to the next player. Then you move on to the building phase, and again, first player will take the building phase, and then it'll be the next player will take the building phase, and so forth. And then after the end of the round, this marker will be passing to the next player. So let's go through the phases. Now, we do start with some money, and each scenario will give you different types of money, different amounts, etc., and resources that you begin the game with. So in this case, it's just an example. I've also got 2 locked spaces as well. That means to unlock them, I must pay gold, as indicated, which is free, to unlock that space. So it's essentially a forest that I've been knocking away. So this is the first phase, is the purchase phase. Now, I can purchase a level 1 card for 1 gold each. Really simple. Bear in mind, you have to pay to build cards as well. I'll explain that in the building phase in a second. Or I can discard 3 cards that I've got. Now you have a hand limit of 8 cards in your hand to then acquire a level 2 card, which, as you can see, there's always 3 laid out here. Now level 2 cards are slightly better. However, they do cost cards to purchase. If I don't like any of the cards that are laid out in level 2 row, I can pay 1 gold to get rid of them all and deal out 3 new cards. Once both players, in this example, the 2-player example, have taken their turns, we will then go into the building phase. Building phase is fairly straightforward, and what we're doing is building cards. So let me just go through a purchase phase and then show you what I mean by the building phase. So here, for example, let's just say I'm going to pay 3 gold. I'll pay that to the bank, so they're worth 1 gold. This is worth 5. I'm going to take 3 level 1 cards. I'll look at them. So once I'm finished, I can purchase up to 4 items. I can also purchase one of these. So what are these? These are officers, and officers like to manipulate the dice. I'll explain how that works in just a second. It'll cost me to purchase these, which is 1 mineral for 2 officers. There are other ways to get officers. And I can also purchase, and dice are here. So you have extra dice that you can purchase. So in this example, I've got 3 cards. Those are the cards I've paid 3 coins for. I could pay a mineral. I don't have a mineral, but if I did, I could pay that to get 2 officers. Or I can pay 4 coins to purchase a die. So for example, I could spend, let's just give this an example, I could use that, get one change because it's worth 5, and then take a die if I want to. I don't want to do that because I need money to build, in the build phase, these buildings. So let's go to the next phase, which is building. So this is the building phase. So I pay the cost and consider building conditions. I pay 3 to unlock the lock space during this phase if I choose to do so. But I'm not going to do that early on, and defence cards must be built in the front row. So I've got here a defence card. So this is a passive ability. So it must be attacked first, it must go in the top row. So in the building phase, I'll look at these and think, right, that's a cost of 1. That's my defence. So that's the health, sorry. So any damage it will take, that will take health counters, which are these. You'll be placing them on. I'll explain how that works in just a moment. And then we've got in a passive ability or the number of die, it must be allocated on that card to trigger it. So in the building phase, let's just say it's my turn. I'm going to pay the 3 to build. So I'm going to put my marketplace here, explain how that works in a moment. I'll put my school here, and let's just say I'm going to put them back here because it has to go in the top row. I've got no choice. I'm going to pay my 3 gold. I'm going to take 2 change from the 5. And then it'll be the next player's turn for them to build. So we've done the build phase. Let's go into the final phase, and that's the action phase. This is the fun part. We roll our die. So we've got 3 dice. We also have 3 dice to start with. Of course, if you purchase any more dice during the purchase phase, you must use that dice on your turn. So I'll be rolling these, and I'll be signing the dice to the cards. I've also got sections here. Now it's important to note that cards can only take 1 dice, even if they have the 2 spaces. For example, the Caravan allows you to place either a 3 or a 4, but you can or a 1, but you can only place 1 dice allocated to each card. Keep that in mind. So in this case, I've got a 6, I've got a 6 and a 3. Now the palace is the only place where you can carry out all 3 actions. For example, I can gain 2 gold, I can put another one to gain 2 gold, and I can gain 2 officers. Now any means I can place any dice in there. Passive ability, remember, it means it's always passive, which means that the elves are always allocated and carried out, regardless if it's your turn or not. In this case, it must be attacked first. The other player attacking must attack the barricades. In this example of the actions, they place a 6 here to go to the market. So what does the market do? This is the marketplace. It allows me to trade once that card. Now we look at the market, and each market does different things. So let's bring this up for a closer look. So you can sell minerals at a cost of 3. So you'll sell 1 and you'll get 3 coins. You can buy a mineral, which you could exchange for 2. So you could, for example, buy 1 and then sell it at another turn to gain an additional 1 coin in advancement because you made a profit. In this one, you can buy a level 1 card. Now it's important it says here, you'll notice this in a few spaces. Can't use a Caravan ability. You can buy a level 1 card, just take the level 1 card. You can buy level 2 card, you can do a maximum 2, cost of 3. And you can buy an attack token. What are attack tokens? Whenever you take a token, these are attack tokens, you will have to place them onto cards immediately. I don't have anything to attack with. I don't have cavalry. But let's just say I had this. I could take those. I could buy the attack tokens at a cost of 1. So I could pay my 2, for example. I can do it 3 times. And I can take those attack tokens. I must place them immediately on the cards. Now I can only place them here because I only have 1 cavalry. You can only allocate a maximum of 2 tokens of that type onto the card. For example, I wouldn't be allowed to allocate any more of those tokens onto the cards. That's a maximum 2. So that will increase the damage. So for example, this gives 2 damage if I put a 1 here. But I've got an extra 2, so that will actually deal an additional 2, 4 in total. Now I don't have a 1, but I have a 3 or a 4. Now I'll explain how that works in just a second. At the start of the game mode will tell you what additional tokens, tiles to use on the marketplace. Now I've just got these as an example. This is a blockage token. And what a blockage token does is it prevents another player from using their ability, but not the passive ability. And all you do is place that on to their allocated card. For example, let's just say it's the other player and they chose to put it on here, and that means I can't use the school. However, I couldn't place it here because you cannot stop a passive ability from happening. Now, as the other player who has got this on the card must use and discard a 3, for example, to unlock it, and then you remove it immediately. buy any die token is simply you just take the any, and this will remain on that card permanently, and you choose the card to place it on. So I can place it there, and that means any die of any number can go on there. So it's really handy. And they all vary from game to game. You've got a big stack of them, which are here. So I've got buy culture. You can hire an assassin, ignore the vendor card, deal 1 damage. You can buy, you can become the first player in the next round. You can buy roll and move, bet and roll and die. So you've got different types. Hire an officer, buy a character card. So at the start of the game, we will have character cards. So at the start of the game, you will, depending on the scenario, you'll be dished out 2 character cards, and then you'll be able to activate them. They do different things. For example, this ignores defense cards, deals 1 damage to 2 different cards or the opponent's palace, and you can sell a card for 3 coins if you don't want it. They're all different. I won't go through them, and you'll be able to use these now at that. What I showed you in the marketplace allows you to buy an additional one for free. So you purchase it for free. You got different types. You've got higher mercenary, you've got different types, and that's the character card I just explained. So that's what they are. So there'll be different ones depending on the scenario. You can just pick and choose. So we're on the allocation of dice. So I've shown you the example. We've gone to the marketplace, and we've seen what these tokens do. You'll also be wondering, what do these do? That's health counters. So you can buy additional health, and you'll be able to place them. Again, a maximum 2. You can also place onto the palace as well. So I could place them there, for example. But remember, I can't put any more than 2 of the same type of token. So let me allocate the rest of the dice. I've got a 3 and a 6. So I went to the marketplace. I purchased 2 attack to increase my cavalry. Now, my opponent doesn't have any cards yet, but they may do later on. I can put a 3 here to deal 5 damage, but I can deal an additional 2. So I'll be at, you have to use these immediately. When you do, they're then discarded. Now, if I didn't use them, they would stay there until they are used. So I can't, for example, deal 5 damage and not use them. I have to use them. Just give me an increase of 2 to 7. So I'll deal 7 damage. I can choose the palace immediately because there's no defense walls here. It's like this. If they had this barricade here, for example, then I would have to attack this first. I cannot carry over any to another card or to the palace. So I'd use roll 7 on this. So that wouldn't be a wise move. However, as there's no defence, I'm going to attack the palace, and they'd put these health life counters on to show how much damage has been taken. Likewise, any damage done to cards, you would put them onto the card. So this is 7. I'm going to deal 7 damage. So I just take 7 of these, and they'll be placed onto that palace. I'm not going to do it now, but that's how that works. I've also got 6. I can't take the same action twice on the same card. So for example, I couldn't allocate another die here. So I've got 6. I can't do anything, but I can place it here. So in this case, I'm going to gain gold because I need gold to purchase more cards. I take the 2 gold. Now I could, for example, if I wanted to, not go to the market and not allocate dice to my cavalry, I could have placed the dice here, for example, because I can carry out as many of these actions as I like in my palace. So that's how that works. So let's have a look and explain how some of these other resources work. So the officers. Some cards let you take officers and acquire them, or you can acquire them in the purchase phase at a cost of 1 mineral. So these let you adjust the die. So I could spend one of these to adjust the die rolls. So as I explained earlier, I can put a 6, change it to 1, or go from a 6 to down to a 5. So I can go in any direction. That's how that works. Your minerals are used for different buildings. So for example, some buildings will require you to use minerals. This one, for example, requires 2 gold and 2 minerals. So they're quite handy for that, and also useful for purchasing officers. A couple of important rules. Whenever you have 2 of the same cards with a passive ability, you cannot use both at the same time. However, it's different for barricades because when it's destroyed, the player will gain 1 gold for destroying a building. And what it'll also do is mean that it'll then unlock the other passive ability because it's taken off the board. However, let's just say I had 2 cards, passive abilities on the board. I would not be allowed to allocate both passive abilities, only one of them if they're the same type of card. Let's see if we can find one. I've had 2 of these. The other player would have to attack this first, that gets discarded once it's destroyed, and then this passive ability would then activate immediately. There we go. So roll 1 more die during your action phase. So if I had 2 mansions, I can only allocate one of the passive abilities. I couldn't do both of them. It's important to note that. And that is how you play. Whoever reaches 18 culture or destroys the palace by giving it 12 damage is the winner. So there we have it. That's a review of Shaolia, and we've pretty much covered most of the rules. A couple of things I didn't quite cover, but I just want to start off with our positives. Then we go into the negatives, and then I'll give a bit of a brief summary of what I think about the game and a final score out of 10. So the first positive I want to pick up on is, and it's very rare actually anyone covers this, is the quality of the rule book. This is a really well written rule book. The quality of it's fantastic. The pages are nice and thick, a premium quality, and as my partner will say, that's very nerdy, but really super. It's so crystal clear if you look. Everything's explained brilliantly well. And it's just clear and clean. And I like the fact that it explains what the cards do, so you're not confused. You know exactly what you're doing. And there's a frequently asked questions section based on certain cards. And I also like that they give different setup scenarios as well, so it varies the game made play. So you can play with teams, you can play 1 versus 1 with 1 versus 3. I certainly feel this plays best with 2 players though. Full credit to the rulebook. They've managed to write this by not over-explaining, but giving enough examples and giving enough explanation to how the game functions and plays. So really well done. And over the production quality of this, which links into my first positive, is really good, really high quality. The cards, well, not overly thick, they're certainly not cheap either, but very clear as well. So everything just makes sense, it's clean, it's clear, it's a really well designed game. So let's move on to my second point. And the second point is that for a very basic, streamlined, simple game, it actually has a decent amount of tactical choice, and I really like that in the tactical sense of this. So I have a choice of, right, I can purchase these level 1 cards for 1 coin, really cheap. I have to consider, right, I also need to build them as well, it's going to cost me coins, but I also want level 2, how quickly do I get the level 2 cards? Do I get the free cards and then discard them immediately, level 1s, to then get level 2 cards? Then I need to keep in mind the cost of those is more expensive. For example, this catapult is going to cost me 1 gold and 1 mineral, so I need to work out how am I going to get a mineral. I need to go to the marketplace, I need the market cards, so I need to get the level 1 cards. But then I need to work out, well, I need to get some barricades to stop my opponent attacking my palace and my other cards. I need to protect them by building these barricades. And I also need to consider some cavalry and some other pieces to attack my opponent. And I need to figure out how I'm going to do that. I also need to consider the marketplace. The marketplace offers really good choices and decisions, and it adds to that tactical sense of this game. Do I concentrate on culture, and there's only 2 means to win, or do I start bombarding my opponent and try and get to their palace and taking that damage on? So I like that tactical sense and the amount of choice and options you've got, even though there are only 2 ways to win. I like that you've got a lot of choice in that strategical decisions in terms of tactical sense. When do I attack? When do I defend? Do I build my defense up before I attack, or go out all attack? Do I start getting those additional tokens, for example, to try and give more damage? Or do I concentrate on building up health so that I've got a better defense there and don't have to worry about buildings getting destroyed? So I really like that and how that works. The third point I like, and I want to move into on the back end of my second point, is the marketplace adds to that tactical but also strategical decisions. So when I go to the marketplace, I need a market card, and I also need to consider, well, do I get another market card that gives me a different type of die to place down? So I've got more options in the marketplace, and I have 2 places to go to in the marketplace, because you only carry out once in that marketplace 1 particular action space. So you have to consider which one of the many, and there are quite a lot of spaces to consider, and I like that it changes from game to game. I'm not sticking my fingers up, apologies. So you choose which ones, or you can follow the scenarios in the book. I really like that, and you've got a good, decent choice of these tokens or tiles to place down. And you have different options. Do I go for extra health? As I said, maybe I go for these lock tokens to stop my opponent using their ability. And I really like that as that strategical depth into the game. And that's quite a lot of choice you have in the market space for such a kind of basic, streamlined game. So I'm going to move on to my next positive, and that is that you have a lot of different choices in the cards to purchase. Now, the level 1 cards, you can't see, you don't know what you're getting, but they're only worth a value of 1. So it's like, well, it's only worth 1 gold in any case. Now, I've always got a choice, do I want to go for those level 2 cards? But the amount of cards you get is quite a lot. It's a decent, hefty amount. And with the expansion adds a lot more. So with this and the expansion, this is only the base game, you've got a lot of cards to choose from. Now, there are about 4 of the same type of cards, so there's not a huge amount in terms of unique cards, but with the expansion, it adds to that uniqueness, but it's a decent choice of cards. And it'll take a few gameplays to actually get through all the cards. You're talking about at least 4 to 6 gameplays to kind of see all of the cards. I really like that you can play this multiple times and not really get bored of seeing the same cards all the time until you get to that kind of 6 gameplay really. But when you add the expansion on, it gives you more choice and options by what cards you want. So I really like the cards. It's really simple as well. Simply just place a die there and there you go. And that moves on to my next positive, and that's the use. I like the dice placement, the use of the dice. Now you can purchase more dice, however you must use that dice straight away. So it costs you 4 gold during the purchase phase to purchase an extra die, but you must use that on your turn when you do the action phase. And I like the dice itself. It looks really cool. And I really like that you've got the option of placing them. Some cards give you different options, especially level 2 cards, on where you can place the dice or whichever number you've got. So it's really handy, and I really like that. And you can use your officers to manipulate the dice as well. And that helps in that strategical decisions about, how do I manipulate? I need 2, but I've only got 1. Well, I can use one of these officers to change the die number. I really like that, and I really like the placement in general of, well, I'm going to need to place this here. I've got this building. It also takes a 5. Which one am I going to use? I really like that. I think it works well in this game. And yeah, sure, there's a bit of luck, but you still have a bit of choice because you can manipulate and you can change the die value. So that's fine. I'm okay with that. I generally don't like dice in games where it's too much luck. This doesn't feel too lucky. It feels like it's balanced because I can always go to the palace to take out actions. So I'm never shy and never short of where I can place my dice. Now, I really, really like that in the game. So there are a few other little positives, but that's my main positives of this game. Now I want to go into the negatives, and there are a couple of things here, and only a couple of things, but one is a major problem for me, and I want to start that off. Now there's 2 main ways to win, which I'm fine with, in a game, which is through culture, reaching 18, or by destroying your opponent's palace, which is a damage of 12. Now, bear in mind, when you're putting barricades on, it's much, much tougher for an opponent to destroy your pass because you have to get through the barricades first. And if you haven't got enough cavalry, because you can't spread your damage out, that can take a while to get through. So I've played many times, many games, where someone's trying to take down a barricade, I just get another one. I keep getting them and putting them up. And all that happens is they keep having to destroy and go for my barricades first because it's got a passive ability, but it tells you must destroy the barricade first. Well, I'm going up the culture track, and there's a card here that if you get early, and sometimes it doesn't come out, and this is where the luck comes in, it's a problem. That's my kind of second point I'll come into later. But there is a level 2 card that you can get, if I can find it, because I'm flicking through it, and it allows you to go up the culture track. And I will find out. So you've got the garden, but it's not that one. And there we go. Now, one of them is Ancestral Valor. That's really, really hard to get and really hard to build because it's 7 gold, 7 minerals. That'll take forever. But if you do, you can get 7 culture. Bear in mind, you only go up to 18. That is huge, huge. To me, that's a bit too powerful. And if you consider that when you're attacking a palace, you have to get past the barricades first. Now, there is a card. I can't find it for the love of God. Where is the card? And I need to go through them again. So while you're dealing damage, the other player is gaining culture, and it's much, much easier to gain culture. And every single time you've played this, the player who gains culture is always the winner. They always win. I can't find the card. There's a card that only costs 1 gold and 1 mineral, and it gains you 5 culture. I only had to do that 3 times, and I also had another card that gained me 1 culture, which I think was a level 1 card. So while I had my barricades out, I was defending, I just kept making sure that at least 1 barricade out. I then activated the card ability that gave me 5 culture. I built it really early on because luckily it came out in the first round, and then I gained the culture 18. Within 6 rounds, I'd won the game. So in half an hour, I'd won the game very comfortably. My opponent didn't do 1 single bit of damage and didn't go up the culture track. Now I've played this multiple times where that's happened every single scenario, where whoever goes for the culture always wins. And that to me is a big problem with the game. Because you've got the barricades to go over, then you need to work it right. I need to deal with, okay, it's only 12 damage, but I'm constantly having to come up with barricades and having to take them down before I can then start attacking the palace, which is really frustrating. So it seems strategically the best option to always gain culture, and that to me is an imbalance and major flaw. Every time I played this, with every player, they've immediately said that straight away, that's a flaw to the game. That's a big, big problem. I'm tempted to change the value, this from 7 to a 5, because I feel that's more fairly balanced, given the fact when you're attacking you've got to get past barricades. The other card that gives you 5 culture, and it's really easy to build because it only costs 1 gold, 1 mineral. I'm going to be changing that to 3, because it just seems that 5 is far too powerful, too easy to gain culture, and with it being a 3 would have been more balanced. So I'm going to change those 2 cards, and it's only imbalancing I can see in the game because everything else is very well balanced. It's very well streamlined, apart from those 2 cards where it seems too powerful, too easy to gain culture. Now, my second negative in this game, like I said earlier, there's a bit of luck. Now, that's fine. I'm okay with a little bit of luck. And sometimes the die rolls might go against you, but a lot of the opponents, they roll on the right die outcomes, and that's just luck. Or the right cards come out at the right time, or they don't come out at the right time, and that's just luck. You can also pay 1 gold to get rid of the 3 level 2 cards that laid out and deal out 3 new cards. So you've got ways to manipulate that, which is fine. But some players might find that being a problem. I personally didn't find it a problem, and I'm someone who doesn't like luck, and I found it okay. I liked it in this game. And that is my only negative. Now, one thing I didn't mention was I'll come in my overview. So my overview is that generally this game is really good. Now, if we take away the fact that there's a big flaw in the game, that's the culture, and I'll be fixing those cards, those 2 cards that give you lots of culture to balance it more, that should fix the game. There are different character cards you can get as well. These are one-off abilities. They're not split an overview. You use these once and then you discard them. So for example, the one I gave, you get no defense cards and deal 1 damage to 2 different cards or the palace. That's really handy if you're trying to get past barricades. The philosopher, build this card immediately, so it gains you 1 culture, so you can build it immediately. So certain character cards are useful. You can discard and get 3 gold. I really like that. It adds another element to the game. The expansion gives you more character cards. So I really like that. It gives you that little one-off ability that no one else has got, because you have to discard the card once you've used it. So that's quite good. But overall, this game is well balanced despite that major flaw, which I will fix. And I like the back and forth, and it certainly feels that this should have been a 2-player game. The general quality of the game is excellent, really good. It's really high quality. I don't have the deluxe version. The deluxe elevates it even more, but I'm quite happy with the base game, and there's no need for me to get the deluxe. There's a lot of choice in the cards. It doesn't feel too samey all the time because you've got different scenario setups. The rule book is well written, fantastic quality, and gives you different scenarios. And expansion gives you more scenarios, so you've got different setups and different modes and way how you can play this game. I really like that, so it varies the replayability. And I think overall, this is a good, solid game despite the major flaw that I will fix. Now, if I didn't figure a way of fixing that flaw, with those 2 cards being way too powerful, I would have rated this a lot lower. But as it stands, I really like the flow of this game. It's easy, 3 simple phases to go through that are well explained. The play rate is excellent. I should have said that in my positives. Really clean and clear. I've never had a problem teaching this game to anyone. Everyone grasps it. It's a really fun, quick game, and it plays about 45 minutes. Fantastic. I wouldn't recommend it with uneven players. It just games like that don't work. It certainly plays best with 2. I'm sure you can play with teams, that works fine with that, but I think it's more of a 2-player game feel this. But overall, I'm going to be giving this a 7 out of 10, providing I've fixed those 2 cards. Without the fix, I'd be giving this a 4 because that is a big flaw to the game. But thankfully, I found a workaround that will work. So overall, a 7 out of 10 for me, a really fantastic 2-player game. I really enjoy this. I like it more than other people who have played this, but I enjoy it. It's quick, simple to get to the table. Setup does take a little bit of time, but listen, it's not more than 5 minutes. I'm okay with that. And tear-down time is only about 3 minutes. I'm happy with that. It's no big deal. Great game, really good quality, really fun, enjoyable. If you like games like this, kind of back and forth, a little bit of take that, building an army in a fun way, this is certainly a game worth checking out. That's Shaolia. And there's also an expansion, The Great Houses, which I highly recommend to go with this game. You've been watching Board Game Bonkers. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to this channel. Yeah, you know, the buggers who don't actually subscribe and just flick through the videos. You. But thanks so much if you have. Give this video a like. Until next time, take care.